it can end up in a nightmare for the CPO to clean their data. Either they don't get the capability or they're not allowed to change their data on Google Maps because competition things, and then it's hard to deduplicate, or Google is merging locations that are not to be merged, and how to solve that. Get it back on track so as you like it to be visualized. Correct, actual up-to-date pictures. This is another thing. Sometimes the locations get refurbished, they get new chargers, the picture is still the old one. How does that affect the driver reliability if you see a picture of a charger that is not installed any longer? Lots of details that can happen if you are not in an actual real-time control of your data.
Welcome back to the eMobility Marketing Podcast, where we explore how the most ambitious e-mobility brands grow and what it takes to get there. Today's episode is about something that often gets overlooked, and it's actually my favorite topic to discuss with CPOs at the moment. Most CPOs focus on marketing campaigns or pricing strategies to boost utilization, but the real foundation starts much earlier. If your locations aren't correctly visible on Google Maps, on Apple Maps, or in-vehicle navigation, you're effectively invisible to drivers. And that's where my guest today comes in. I'm joined by Arne Meusel, Managing Director and co-founder of Cirrantic, a company that ensures charging locations are accurately represented across all relevant platforms. We'll talk about how visibility and marketing together drive utilization, and how CPOs can move from data to demand. Arne, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Yeah, super. Thanks, Theo. Thanks for inviting. Thanks for having me. You actually did the perfect summarization. We started like 10 plus years ago, actually, when eMobility was at least in Germany in the real beginning. I know the Netherlands were ahead at that time, how to find chargers, how to find reliable chargers when you're driving around with your EV, and solving that issue in a professional automotive grade way. That was actually the starting point of Cirrantic. Ulrich Heidmann and myself, we have been working before in the EV industry a couple of years, and it was in the early days. And we started Cirrantic to solve the issue of finding reliable charging locations in the public space. So finding the first chargers in the 2010s, and nowadays find the right charger and the reliable charger in these days, and helping our partners as we call it, channel and touch point manager, from a marketing perspective, finding or getting the chargers and additional information to the touch point of the EV drivers. That's the core of the Cirrantic platform.
Okay. And so, Arne, you've been working with CPOs for many years, right? You mentioned 2010, so you're in the industry for a long time. From your perspective, what's the biggest challenge at the moment that CPOs face when it comes to data visibility?
Yeah, it's a good question. We went through to a couple of ways. At the beginning, it was rather setting the foundation in getting the chargers on the maps itself, and now to have it correctly, reliably on the maps so that EV drivers can really rely on the data. And this is changing dramatically in the last couple of days, that the operator, the owner of the charging locations, are getting back, we call it, in the driver's seat of their data. In the early years, it was, okay, how can I get there? I spread it everywhere, and it must be, hopefully somehow it ends up at the touch points of the EV drivers. But nowadays they want to get in control. They want to get control back over their chargers, how they are presented and what is related to their chargers. Are there pictures on it? Are there charging services on there? Whatever. A lot of stuff that is nowadays developing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of CPOs underestimate this, right? It's not that they don't care, but rather that they don't have the right tools or processes in place to manage it. We'll dig into this deeper in a moment. But before we do that, in your opinion, why has visibility become such a critical factor for CPOs these days?
Yeah. The user group that drives EVs are changing. In the early days, it was pioneers. They were really keen on getting this stuff done, getting out on the street, driving around with their EVs. And nowadays we have at least a second, maybe third generation of EV drivers that are used to that everything works fine. It must be a digital product. Everything must be reliably there. And this generation of EV drivers has higher expectations at all. They are not looking for any app that can help them. They are not scouting chargers and post them on registries. The generation of today just wants to have everything at hand, in their cars, at their Apple Maps and Google Maps, and on their smartphones, on their charging apps that they get with a car or that they source themselves. They want to have everything at hand, as you would expect it in a digital world like we have today. And this generation, needs accurate, precise, and repeated information. You need to be on Google Maps, you need to be on Apple Maps, you need to be in car with the same content, basically, as an
Yeah.
operator. If there are differences, then suddenly reliability and the cautiousness of the drivers they get cautious do I really go there when it sounds in that channel like this and in another channel differently, then they are getting reluctant in going there. And this consistency, reliability, this is key in
Right.
these
Yeah,
days.
like you say, it's a key point, the link between data quality and marketing performance. And what we
Yeah.
see is that EV chargers are not like restaurants or petrol stations in terms of how they show up as a point of interest on a map. Like there's a lot of more complexity to this behind this data. So let's go a bit deeper into that foundation. Like, can you explain how a charging location actually becomes visible in Google Maps or in an in-car navigation system? What's happening behind the scenes?
Yeah. It's a good question. It varies. Every channel and every touch point is a little bit different. What we say is, in principle, connect to as many options out there, roaming platforms, aggregators like us, MSP solutions, obviously, that can reach out to EV drivers. The thing is, you need to have someone like our platform to help you manage it professionally so that you are getting the right information, the correct information, as said, the consistent information out.
Yeah.
So we are not restricting, connect to everything that is necessary in the industry, but still keep and get in the driver's seat of your data by having a guide, having an helping touchpoint manager like we are usually doing, helping them getting back in control of their locations. The way usually, I mean, there are chargers set up physically by the CPOs. They are collecting their data in an aggregating management system, like a charge point management system, etc. And from there, it usually gets distributed in various channels, like mentioned, roaming platforms,
Mhm.
aggregators, etc. And then so it spreads various ways, and then it arrives at a certain touch point or channel. Basic good example is always Google. Google sources different channels. It sources an MSP solution. It sources a roaming platform. It sources our aggregating data feed. So Google receives it also multiple times usually, and
Uh,
then tries obviously to make sense. And this is applying to all other integrators, as we call them, as well. They are sourcing multiple sources. They are having their MSP solution, maybe. They are using, again, a roaming platform. They're having some direct connections because history, whatever. And then how to make sense out of what they get. And everyone is trying or used to try to have their best knowledge on their side, but we are helping them, the integrators, to retrieve or to identify the best information that they might already have or retrieve from our platform. And this is
nice.
basically key, to get through a network of data flows, how to still enable the respective touch point or channel integrator, as we call them, to choose the right one and to make it correct from a operator perspective, but correct from a driver perspective as well.
So, and Arne, like we've been working with a few CPOs on these topics, and like Google, for example, is always a headache. They might also think that, oh, we'll just connect with Google ourselves. Like, why is that a bad idea? Like, why would do you need to set it up in a different way and make sure that data flows from your CPMS to all these aggregators instead of doing it yourself?
Yeah, the thing is, sometimes it's hard it's this classical network problem. Yeah. If everyone wants to connect to everyone, then you have a lot of APIs to maintain. You have a lot of setups. You have so aggregation is a thing. In a network, you always have some kind of aggregation benefits of having one connection to a platform like ours, and then having one connection to multiple, or from an integrated perspective, having one connection aggregating various CPOs at once, various data providers at once. So there is a network effect. Obviously, you can have peer-to-peer. It's also common, but still, it helps only then one side usually. Yeah? The CPO that connects directly to an in-car, for example, has solved their problem, but the
Mhm.
OEM, the car manufacturer, has then hundreds of connections suddenly,
Right.
and they need to manage. So even if one side thinks they have solved their problem, we have it. We are on Google. Super.
Mhm.
From the other perspective is hundreds of connections, and we are talking not about hundreds, but worldwide, or at least region, in a world region like Europe or in the Americas or in Asia, about thousands of CPOs out there, yeah, that are
Mhm.
usually trying to spread their word about their chargers. So it's really a thing of aggregation to help um, getting the efficiencies on one hand, but still be able to stay in the driver's seat. And this is basically it's a two-sided thing. Yeah, you have to use the aggregation, but still keep the owner of the data, the CPOs, in the driver's seat. And this is actually
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
sweet spot, yeah, to not only aggregating, spread your data, and then hope for the best. Yeah, this is not what we do, but keeping the traction of who is doing what, who is presenting what, who is visualizing what. This is basically it's not squaring the circle, but this is the sweet spot, yeah, to have control and have maximum coverage.
And I can imagine like there's a lot of technical details to this process, and we're not gonna go too deep today. But I had one question, like what's the biggest issue that you see in setting this all up and how this operates? Like, is there
Yeah.
something that really stands out? Like this usually goes wrong, and like what's going on there? Can you explain a bit?
Yeah, they are basically two, let's say, generations. So first of all, getting on the maps as well. This is now getting much better, yeah, because there's
Okay.
more standards in the industry, etc. But what develops now is that you have duplicates, because as Google, again, good example, it's sourcing multiple ways. Naming and the data is not fully consistent. Suddenly Google thinks, there are two locations at this spot, and or two
Mhm.
charger operating at the spot because of different naming of the chargers in the data set. Duplicates. Suddenly you have duplicates, and it's hard to solve the duplicates if the naming of the charger is wrong if, for example,
Mhm.
CPOA wants to delete all chargers that are called ABC plus or so, whatever, just an example, then that's really hard to convince Google, hey, please eliminate all ABC plus chargers because it's a wrong spelling of our chargers. They say maybe it's a competitor and you want to delete the chargers of your competitor.
Okay.
This is not
Yeah.
what we do. They
Yeah.
are really reluctant or obviously and careful in managing POIs on maps, yeah, because of their history and market position, etc. There's a lot of stuff on their side. But the key is it can end up in a nightmare for the CPO to clean their data.
Mhm.
Either they don't get the capability, or they are not allowed to change their data on
Mhm.
Google Maps because competition things, and then it's hard to deduplicate. Otherwise, it can also happen that Google is merging, or the touchpoint is merging locations that are not to be merged, and how to solve that. Yeah,
Yeah.
get it back on track so as you like it to be visualized. Key problems are usually the naming. That's still a thing because sometimes the legal entity is not like the customer facing brand. In that case, suddenly things can go wrong.
Mm.
The URLs are related to that, yeah, the hotline numbers, sometimes so the real basic. But now it comes to correct, actual, up-to-date pictures. Yeah, this is another thing. They're usually sometimes the locations get replenished or refurbished. Yeah, they get new chargers. The picture is still the old one. How does that affect the driver reliability if you see a picture of a charger that is not installed any longer?
Yeah.
Lots of details that can happen if you are not in an actual real-time control of your data.
Yeah, exactly. Like you said in the beginning, it's all about keeping control over your data and make sure that you're doing this right. And like you said, it's like currently in the industry, it's all about building trust. And if there are duplicates or outdating information, it can be really damaging, like not just operationally, but also in terms of reputation. And the driver arriving at the wrong address or at a charger that doesn't exist anymore is a direct hit on trust. So just to summarize, like what's a typical process you follow with CPOs to clean up the data and to distribute accurate POI data across all these platforms?
Yeah, first of all, obviously, we make sure that the data we receive are correct. So we identify issues automatically or get back to them with a request. How is your exact spelling and writing of your network name? Are the data fully correct as we send it on? Usually that is already done when the CPOs connect to the platform. And then we send it on and we sample the quality on the respective channel and touch points on Google Maps, on Apple Maps, on in-car systems, on other apps, etc., where we deliver data. We check how are you as a CPO or that CPO is presented currently to have a baseline. Okay, what are we facing? What are the issues? And then we set up a process together with a channel, yeah, with Google or Apple or the in-car system to make them aware that there is an issue. And we take care of that, yeah, as a single point of contact for the multiple channel situation a CPO might be facing. And then reach out to them and retrieve feedback. Sometimes we solve it directly with a respective channel. Sometimes we have to go back to the CPO with a problem that is arising. But this is then set up to set the new standard. And if this new standard is then established, then it usually automizes again. So as soon as new locations are set up from this respective or by this respective CPO, then we have a smooth passing through, automized path through of the data to the channels because they then know, okay, this charger is now coming from the CPO. It's a new one. It's that naming, it's that URL, it's that hotline number, it's that additional information. And then all goes smoothly after this first initiating cleanup process. Yeah, let's
Right.
say.
Yeah. So essentially, you make sure that every charger is digitally alive, like correctly located, updated, synchronized everywhere drivers might look. Like that's the real foundation before anything else can work. So once the visibility layer is fixed, like the next challenge is preference. In your opinion, how do you make drivers choose your stations once they can find them?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I mean, the touch point, like a map solution on your smartphone, etc., has their own logic how to present POIs for their users. Yeah, so every map solution or also the car manufacturers have their solution how to select for the viewer for the driver what it seems to be the best for them. But obviously there are certain attributes or certain criteria KPIs that really help stand out of the options for a CPO. And this is completeness for sure. Yeah. So have all the core information at your charger. And this is actually the mentioned core attributes plus real-time information. Real-time information is a really important indicator to have. Not only is it available or not, but also have a good responsiveness or not only near time, half a minute later or 1 minute later, the state changes, but really close to someone is plugging in and the real time state changes. That's why we are taking focus on that as well. Yeah, making sure that real time is really real time and not
Mhm.
just saying, hey, it's available, but
Yeah.
it was 5 minutes ago available. Yeah, this is not really a good. And many channels focus on these real time data a lot. They are doing samples. Car manufacturers do samples on that. How good is the real time quality? Obviously, push is the technology to improve that. So we get it pushed, we push it on, and usually it gets down to a couple of seconds from someone is plugging in and via the chain of IT systems, it's visible on a map solution or an in-car solution. This is our goal. This is best practice. It's working. But some CPOs have to get there to stand out of the crowd.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
It's like you say, that's where trust, consistency, and brand presence play such a big role. The drivers need to feel confident that what they see digitally matches what they'll experience on site, and that digital to reality connection creates a reliability. Like if we're talking about marketing, how do you see the role of marketing once the data is in good shape, once the foundation is there? What can CPOs do?
Yeah, for sure. This is the thing that is now coming up because of the density is higher of locations. Options are out
Mhm.
there. Yeah, I don't need to go to the next one. I can go to the one that is 10 kilometers away on a highway, for example.
Yeah.
So how do I decide as a driver? Yeah, obviously from an amenity perspective, but, and this is the core thing, increasingly from information or service information. Yeah, is my service I want to use available at this charger? Is the price information, for example, dynamic? Yeah, is there a CPO that starts having better prices during the days or during low utilization times or whatever? How can I spread this? And this is core product management marketing with a tool of getting it to the touch points, getting it onto the channels and touch points where the customers, the EV drivers, are. And obviously raising awareness that I am, as a CPO, able to provide certain service packages, subscriptions that are having better pricing points, for example. You need to get the drivers, make them aware that that is the case, yeah, that you are out there. Otherwise, you can only reach out to your bubble that you already have, yeah, to your customers that have heard of your brand and then go and download your app and get a subscription or get a registration at least. Cool. But what about with the 90% rest of the drivers that are now flocking to the
Mhm.
market? Yeah, they never heard of a brand name of which we are quite commonly used, but the drivers aren't. Yeah, they don't know the industry names of networks they could use, especially if you're not having an established name. Yeah, like a fuel company that usually runs gas stations that is might be in the brains of the drivers. Yeah, they know the name. Ah, okay, I can only also go to XYZ fuel station. They also have chargers now. But what if you are having a new brand, yeah, and you want to establish a new brand? You have to
Mhm.
get awareness, yeah, to raise awareness. And one point is also where we are having our cooperation, Theo, is always spreading the word, but then getting real life daily traction on my daily commute or on my route that I'm going holiday vacation travel with my car, getting back into the awareness of the drivers at the
Mhm.
point when they really need the charging. Yeah, this is the key point. This is where when the foundation is laid, how can we get the everyday driving needs answered?
Yeah, yeah, I fully agree. Like EV charging usage is almost entirely digital at the moment. So from finding a location to paying for it, so marketing can be highly contextual there. Things like special prices or event-based ads. Like we do quite a lot of paid media campaigns around these charging stations. So once they can be found, for example, on Google, you can also run ads on those specific Google POI. So that works really well to drive utilization. We've seen that happen a lot of times. So let's talk about that for a moment. So we built a joint proposition with Cirrantic and Next Industry, connecting that data part and the marketing to help CPOs drive utilization. Can you share from your end how these two layers complement each other?
Yeah, basically, we connect the data layer to the respective channels, maintaining them automatically, real-time data, additional content, and then it's there. Yeah, the data is there.
Mhm.
It's correctly there. It's reliably, you can re-find it every time. But then the thing is, marketing plays the role to get the raise the awareness, to have you in the brain of the driver. Hey, there was something I heard, and there's a special offer going on. There's a happy hour over the weekend. They opened a charge park. So there's a lot
Yeah.
of things that are really marketing heavy to get this out on to the driver. Yeah, this is where
Mhm.
your offer comes into play. How to manage this, how to play ads, how to communicate all the things. But still, you have to find it back in your everyday touch point. Maybe you come across, you
Mhm.
scroll on your smartphone, you see an ad placed by your offer, but then you step into the car and you have to re-find the same location that you have been told
Mhm.
about the marketing that there is something. Or best case, your routing engine, being it in the car or you choosing an app, would reflect that, yeah, and would remind you, oh, there was something that I heard of, that they have a special rate over the weekend at this charger or during the day. Every day when I'm traveling at lunchtime, they have special rates for lunchtime charging because of a sunroof or a PV park next to
Mhm.
or whatever the thing is. And then getting into the routines and into the everyday charging needs of the driver. This is our task, having the multiple touch points that a driver might use filled with the same information so that they can really make use of it in an everyday. And you are placing and spreading the word about these cool features and products that you need to know about. This plays really cool together, that you have this marketing perspective,
Yeah.
promotion, spreading the word, and on the other hand, finding it back in your real everyday charging experience or routing and charging experience.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you say, we cover the full journey, like from the visibility to activation. And that's the power of having this done properly. And one of the things that you said also triggered me, Arne, is that when your charging stations can be found everywhere with the right data, when the data is accurate, when there's high quality data, you also show up higher in rankings, right? In charging apps on Google, in Apple Maps, if you search for locations. So it's not just, it's like the traditional search engine optimization that we talk about a lot in marketing. This is also sort of what you do for these EV charging stations. It's something that's critical to understand. That it's not just about being there, but it's also about being there with the right information. So search engines find you better, and all these apps show your data more accurate. And that's one of the things that is important in marketing. And once you've done that, and the visibility foundation is solid, we can step up on the marketing side. We can run campaigns that bring those stations to life. We can make sure they show up where drivers actually are, whether that's on navigation apps, in social media, or targeted awareness campaigns. And also, like you said, when you open a new location as a CPO, like celebrate, make sure you drive awareness, but also make sure that this foundation is done properly first. So drivers can actually find that location on maps and everywhere they go, because that's where it all starts. We can run beautiful marketing campaigns, but if this foundation is not there, you're gonna have a really hard time. And if something's not accurate when a driver shows up, they're never coming back. Like, you have one
True.
chance. And we've talked about this a lot of times also in other episodes of the eMobility Marketing Podcast, that you can do it right once. And if somebody has a bad experience, they will never come back. Like, it's going to be really hard to win them back in the future. And that's why also this foundation is so important, to make sure you do this right.
Yeah.
If you look at this, Arne, from your perspective, what kind of results can CPOs expect once visibility and marketing are aligned?
Yeah, that's a good question. We are always trying to get KPIs, yeah, get figures out
Totally.
of what happens if you don't or if you do that. But
Hmm.
it's hard to have a really, let's say, reliable data, because you always have to have a subset. Yeah, even if you ask, for example, Google, you know what's going on Google. You have a lot of drivers that use in-car systems, and increasingly, actually, the number currently. Yeah, this is what we see. The thing is, if you are wrong on one of the channels, and let's imagine that there are 30% or a third is on Google Maps and their ecosystems being in-car, or a third is in-car, and a third is relying on other apps, let's say MSP apps or routing apps, etc.
Hmm.
Google and Apple as a map solutions, maybe agnostically with a middle third. Then if you are not reliable there on one, you are losing out on one third of the driver charging needs that are out there. Yeah? Imagine there are, I don't know, 1 million charging needs per day in Europe. Yeah, 1 million charging sessions. They are searching for their charging. And one third of these
Yeah.
needs, yeah, are not addressed digitally correctly. You're losing out on a third of the market easily. Yeah? As soon as you are not correctly present in one of the channels or channel types, yeah, channel categories, suddenly you might be losing out on a big chunk of the market. If you imagine, as you say, that it's repeating usage, yeah, you're missing out. One has a bad experience, suddenly they don't come back. Maybe they stick to the same digital channel, but they are really not relying on that data any longer.
Uh-huh.
You're easily losing a third of your market potential that you could otherwise have. Relatively, it's like this. in absolute numbers, it's always hard to say. The
Mhm.
thing is, it's very heterogeneous how drivers use their touch points. Yeah, it can be in car. Sometimes they start in car, then they connect their phone, start routing with their. In another case, they start routing with, let's say, Apple Maps on their iPhone in the car using CarPlay, and the other day they are using their in-car system. That's
Mhm.
why it's so important to have consistency between all these channels, because the drivers are switching back and forth. And as you say, one unreliable experience or a not so good experience can really cost you a lot of reputation and repeating visits, yeah, from a
Yeah,
driver group.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, it's great to hear how tangible the impact can be when these two elements work together, because
Yeah.
ultimately marketing can't compensate for bad data, right? So if both are right, you can really scale utilization, and we've seen that before on the projects we've worked on together.
One addition, just coming to my mind, we had this example, yeah, where the reputation was gone, basically. They have been working
Mhm.
on it and now trying to getting the drivers back on their premises, on their charger locations, because they had lost the confidence or the reliability experience or from the drivers. And it was really, really hard to get back. And this is one of the examples I mentioned. The pictures were showing old hardware at the locations, which had a bad reputation by the drivers. Actually installed was a new one and perfectly new spots, rooftops, everything is nice. But the drivers didn't know and didn't expect that anymore. And then building that back it's really tough. Yeah? That's why it's so important to manage
Yeah.
it actively and getting it accurately up to date.
Yeah, yeah. It's like we said, you have one chance to do it right and to win the trust of an EV driver. And if you mess that up, then it's really hard to get them back. So this is absolutely important to remember. If we're looking at the future of this, Arne, like how do you see the data-driven marketing evolving for CPOs in the next few years?
Yeah, it's getting more and more competitive. The drivers have options out there. They choose the options. The key drivers of driver preferences, EV driver preference, are not yet fully established. Yeah, some are
Mhm.
using their fleet. They're driving a fleet car that is pushing some preference networks that they should use. Others are heading towards a certain brand that they now have in their mind and they stick on it. Others will use their subscriptions that have better pricing offers at certain locations. So there's a lot of options out there. On the other hand, this also means that there is a lot of potential to drive and to get this fleet of the number of drivers with their everyday needs from one use case or user journey into another. Yeah, they are
Mhm.
still kind of learning what is best for me, what works best for me, what is a good thing. Maybe I'm stopping over lunchtime. I always need a charger that has some amenities to get lunch or yeah whatever. So having certain amenities at hand, can do my grocery shopping while I'm charging. So there are a lot of use cases out there that can really be addressed. And this is the thing we expect to be the playing field of tomorrow. Yeah, to have all the marketing instruments in your hand to reach out to the respective driver at the respective charging need and combine it with their everyday need, yeah, dinner or
Mhm.
lunchtime or grocery shopping or whatever, and reaching out and inform them, hey, there's a good option for you that I can recommend to you, and then they can say, hey, this is my choice, and then they either take a detour to that because they can combine it and save time overall, whatever. Yeah. Think
Yeah.
really complex user journeys. It feels complex, but actually it's like a very targeted marketing. Yeah, you have your product at the time when the driver starts searching for or explaining their needs. Hey, we the car is getting empty. We have a stop over lunchtime. It's nearing lunchtime, and hey, I can recommend you the stop now and not later because etc. There are a lot of specific marketing targeted marketing, I think, coming up,
Yeah.
and competition. Yeah, the thing is, they have all good hardware now. They have all good locations. The CPOs really have to differentiate by points that are maybe soft points. Yeah, it's not only the location any longer. It's the amenities. It's the quality of service. It's the price. Also a thing that is for sure coming up,
Yeah.
especially in the public space, to differentiate. But price needs to be communicated, and communicated price then has a traction for to the driver only if they know about it. Yeah? If they say, I have
Exactly.
a charging card, I don't care about the price, then other drivers are other factors are it.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things. Like in the previous episode of the podcast, we spoke about price transparency and pricing strategies, and this is exactly like why it's also important to make sure that the price is communicated correctly on all these platforms. So that's also where you come into play with the solution to make sure that this is done accurately everywhere, and you see the same price on every platform. Let's not forget about that. So yeah, it's absolutely important. And yeah, making sure that this foundation is done properly. So if we look into this, Arne, like how does this work? Like, if I'm working at a CPO in marketing and pricing, and if I want to have this set up properly, how do you do that? Like, how do you do that in the long term? What do you do? Like, what does the CPO have to do itself? Like, can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah. The good thing is, since the industry is maturing, we also have the systems, the IT systems that are maturing. That is really good, and we saw this in the last couple of, let's say, 5 years or so, that there are standards out there to communicate this information automatically. APIs, everything talks
Uh-huh.
API. This is the key driver, to have an API for your data, for your products ready. And we integrate usually APIs to have an up-to-date, basically real-time feed, also for additional data points like prices, for example. Coming up, we need up-to-date information via APIs. So connecting APIs is key. This is always the starting point, setting this up, having this up and running. And then basically the product management comes into play to manage their products on their systems. Yeah, we are not opening up new dashboards, new solutions for them. They can use their established asset management, product management tools. This is the key here, our approach, to have it at one spot where you manage everything, and we retrieve whatever is managed and defined and set up there, and spread it
Hmm.
automatically to the respective supporting integrating channel. Yeah, being an in-car that can digest service information, but maybe not yet present pricing information, we will send over the service information, at least. Yeah, until this channel is supporting prices, we will also send over the prices basically automatically from a product manager CPO side. We will increase their coverage as soon as the respective channel we are sending the data to is capable of digesting this information and presenting it to their drivers. And we have
Okay.
this is actually our core part, giving instruments, tools to the product manager, to the marketing department, so that they can focus on their key part, developing products, developing price strategies, developing marketing campaigns. And then
Mhm.
we help spreading this and getting it to the touch points.
Okay. So just to summarize, you don't need any additional tools or expensive software to set this up properly, right? It's more a
Yeah,
matter of connecting the dots
yeah,
in the background, and this will all run more smoothly.
exactly.
Okay, so yeah, Arne, it's been a really insightful conversation. If there's one takeaway from today's episode, it's this: like, you can't market what people can't find. So visibility is the foundation, and then marketing is the engine that drives utilization. And I really liked what we've developed together, like Cirrantic and Next Industry together. We can offer a solution for all of this, which is going to give you a really smooth operation and also a lot of additional visibility of your charging stations, and we can actually make sure we increase utilization at those locations where that's an issue. So I really like that we're kind of joining these efforts together and showing CPOs what can be done if you set this up properly. So for anyone who wants to learn more about Cirrantic and our joint approach, like reach out to either Arne or myself. You can find us both on LinkedIn or go to the website cirrantic.com, and we have more information on our website nextindustry.com as well. So Arne, thanks for joining. Like, is there anything as a final note that you want to mention that we haven't talked about yet?
I really like the term that you coined with laying the ground, the foundation, and then start building your product. And as a digital product as it is, playing with all the instruments out there, and basically getting EV charging to that point where EV drivers really enjoy that, even if it's a must-do product. Yeah, it's not a thing that you choose for hours selecting stuff. Yeah, it's a must do, but they really have to enjoy their experiences. And from a CPO perspective, as you say, having all the instruments at hand, to manage a digital product. This is basically our key point here. Getting there, building that in the next years, that is our task. And happy to, if you reach out to us, as Theo said, and explain in detail what it means, to have foundation and then the tool set of Next Industry at hand.
Right. Well, thanks, Arne. And I would highly recommend, if this is something that you're working on as a CPO, to reach out. And we're always happy to explain what we can do and what the benefit of that is. So I hope you got a better understanding with this episode about this complicated topic in eMobility, I would say. So thanks again, Arne, for being here. I really enjoyed speaking about this. And to our listeners, thank you again for tuning into the eMobility Marketing Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, follow the show and share it with someone in your network who's building in this space. I'll see you next time.